Close enough. I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone here, and to start, would ask you to participate with us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Annie, will you lead us tonight, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. I have two amendments. One is approval of the agenda A. Mike needs to go over safety protocol. And under old business planning, historic district, item 1A on the landmark, that is on Gannon Avenue, not Glen. So if we make those corrections, are there any other adjustments to the agenda? All right, hearing none.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
And second, all in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. We have Mike coming for the safety protocol.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. As once again tonight, we're still trying to deal with COVID-19, and in response to that, we are enacting several safety measures, which we did during the joint public hearing, and being that was successful, we're going to continue these until further notice. Once again, everybody had to go through a health screening before they were allowed to enter the building to make sure that they did not have a temperature and they were feeling well. You also notice that everybody is spread out pretty evenly throughout the council chambers. We made sure that the available seats are at least 6 feet from any other seats to make sure that there's maintaining social distancing. There are 2 public hearings tonight, and while nobody's here at the moment to speak for each of those public hearings, we will be rotating individuals into the council chambers if they wish to make comment. Right now, looks like we're going to be able to accommodate everybody in. But with that, there will be transitions for items in the event that additional people come in. So we do ask for your patience as we check into the hallway, make sure that there's nobody here to speak for that particular item.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to take the podium for a minute. Okay, the school year has started again, I guess, sort of. So, as you may or may not be aware, we recognize a student and a teacher from one of the local public schools. And this meeting is Eastwake High School. They are not here. We have certificates for them that will be delivered to them. But I do want to read the recognition notes that we have for them. The first is Anna Furman Felix. Anna Furman Felix is a senior at Eastwake High School since her freshman year till now. She has been involved in North Carolina State University Trio Upward Bound, National Honor Society, Beta Club, Interact Club, and she is a part of the varsity soccer team. In the sophomore year, she attended a program at Yale University for 2 weeks, and this past summer, she was going to attend a 4-week-long program in Barcelona, Spain. A few of her hobbies consist of playing instruments, listening to music, painting, photography, writing, and after high school, Anna plans to attend a 4-year university in the Northeast United States. Her course of study is undecided at this time, but her ultimate goals are to help people who don't have a voice, people in need, and make an impact on this world. So, much gratitude and accolades to Anna Furman Felix. Okay, staff recognition is Aubrey Webb. Aubrey Webb is the lead secretary at Eastwake High School. Ms. Webb has worked for Wake County Public Schools for 28 years and at Eastwake High for 12 years. She is a longtime resident of Zebulon and graduated from Zebulon High School. She is also a member of Zebulon First Baptist Church. The school wanted to honor Ms. Webb with this recognition because of her commitment to Eastwake community and her hard work. She has served as one of the stabilizing forces for the school, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. Aubrey is the daughter of Mrs. Naomi Webb and the late Charles Webb, and she is one of 10 siblings. So accolades as well and gratitude to Ms. Webb. Next, we have two public hearings. The first is AN 2020-02 on Sidney Creek, so I'll call that public hearing to order and ask for staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. First public hearing before you tonight is AN 2022 Sidney Creek. The applicant is DRSFA LLC. The owner's the same. The address has two addresses, 0 Chambly Road and 1701 Chambly Road. Parcel size is 214 acres. The existing zoning is residential 10 SUD. The applicant is requesting annexation in town of Zebulon is the request. This is a subject property, currently vacant. You have Chambly Road along the southwest portion of the property, and you have NC Highway 39 to the adjacent east. Here's the zoning of the property. As I just stated, it's residential 10 SUD. You have some light industrial to the adjacent north, and then everything you see in aerial is Wake County's jurisdiction. This is the ETJ map. Everything located in this area, this darker gray, is Wake County ETJ. Everything in this lighter gray is the town of Zebulon ETJ, and then in the kind of the beige is town of Zebulon town limits. On the land use map, the designation is long range utility service area. It's the locations where the star is located. The site might look familiar. It was rezoned in 2019 to residential SUD, and there was a special use permit approved on the property as well. Currently, the stage of this project is it's in TRC review. This is looking north on NC Highway 39 at the posted sign. This is the posted sign on Chambly Road. Another sign on Chambly Road. These are the four standards that we would evaluate for the annexation. And then staff's recommendation is allowing public comment in accordance with the applicable regulations. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for me? Okay. Is there anyone then wishing to speak in favor of the annexation?
Hello, Jay Colvin, 4009 Periwinkle Blue Lane. Represent the applicant, DRSFA. I've also seen you all before during the rezoning, especially use permit process. I'm here to answer any questions that you have regarding the property. Like Meade said, we're in the TRC process, looking to wrap that up and start work on the site, pending all of the approvals and permits going through. I would like to say thanks to Michael and Meade and Chris on all their work from the town staff standpoint. They've been really great partners with us, very diligent about replying to all of our requests and getting back to comments, especially in a uncertain and a lot of bogged down time that this COVID situation is causing everybody. So I just want to say thank you to those guys. They've done a great job. They're really good stewards of the town. You've got good folks on your staff. So again, I'm here to answer any questions if you need them. We're looking forward to breaking ground on the project and getting going.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. We'll close the public hearing and look look at it a little bit later. So now we have public hearing for the amendment of Chapter 3131 regarding the planning board. Michael?
Once again, good evening. Section 3131 of our Town of Zebulon town ordinances regulates the makeup of the planning board. Currently, it requires 4 in-town members and 3 ETJ members. When this was last updated in 2015, we had a very different dynamic of the town. It was more of a proportional response. However, those dynamics have changed. Additionally, we have an increased number of folks who do live in town who would be interested in serving on the planning board. Therefore, the town staff is proposing an amendment to Section 3131 to change this to 5 in-town members and 2 ETJ members. As an example of how this is shifted, as I noted, this was last updated in 2015, and at that time, the population was different. Since then, we have accumulated at least 2,200 new persons based on an average of 766 homes, 2.9 persons per dwelling unit. Furthermore, we have over 3,200 lots that have yet to begin construction. Either they have vested rights or they're in the early stages of development approval. Therefore, we feel that this makeup is more proportional, not only to what the town is right now, but also moving forward and still making sure that we have adequate representation from the ETJ. I'm available if anybody has any questions.
Questions? Thank you. Anyone wish to speak on this matter? Okay, thank you. We'll close that public hearing and talk about it a little bit later as well. Did we have anyone for public comment?
We did not.
Okay, so there's no public comment this evening. Next, we have a proclamation, Firefighter Appreciation Week, September 6th through the 12th. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read it. Whereas fighting fires is one of the most hazardous professions requiring physical strength, stamina, extensive training, courage, and selfless concern for the welfare of others, and whereas firefighters provide valuable services to the citizens of Zebulon and surrounding areas, and whereas firefighters make sacrifices to protect the lives and financial interests of the citizens of Zebulon, and whereas firefighters respond to emergencies without hesitation when the call of duty arises, and whereas firefighters have a great appreciation for protecting their communities, and whereas our firefighters are a combination of both paid and volunteer professionals who are dedicated to the service of this community, and whereas the North Carolina General Assembly resolved that the week containing September 11th as Firefighters Week in North Carolina each year, and furthermore designated September 11th of each year as an official state holiday, First Responder Day. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Zebulon, do hereby proclaim September the 6th through September the 12th, 2020, as Firefighters Week, and shall call upon all citizens to recognize the duties and services that firefighters perform. And it would be adopted the first day of September. So I'll ask for a motion for adoption.
I move to adopt.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have the consent agenda.
I have a couple things that I'd like to pull out from the consent.
Okay, in the future, that needs to be pulled out at approval of the agenda, but we'll go ahead and.
Okay. Can we pull under 5D, ordinance 2021-26 for office furniture?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Under 6D, ordinance 2021-26 for office furniture.
Okay. Is that the only one, John?
And under 5, ordinance 2021-21 for community and economic development alley activation.
Okay. Thank you. We'll put those under old business 4, A and B. A will be 5A, and B will be 6D. Okay, any other? All in favor? Motion carries. Now, wait a minute, do we even have a motion on that? Okay, I'm sorry. Need a motion? Is there a motion to amend the consent agenda?
Motion to amend the consent agenda as stated
And adopt?
and adopt.
Second.
Okay, now, all in favor? We'll get it right in a minute, folks. Thank you. Okay. Okay, next we have old business, A1, Historic District, Historic Landmark.
Good evening. I feel a little guilty. I feel like I'm monopolizing the microphone tonight. The first of the items for the old agenda is an item that you received information on as part of the joint public hearing. We have a request to designate the Barbie House at 216 West Gannon as a Wake County Historic Landmark. As a reminder, the structure does still have a lot of its historic integrity. There's a lot of contributing features which were discussed at length last time by the presentation that Jeremy from Capital Area Preservation provided. Once again, it is located on West Gannon, and it does include a house and a couple of detached accessory structures, including a well house that is in excellent condition for that particular time period. The exterior of the house is also been really well kept up, still maintains all of its historic integrity. And the Wake County Historic Preservation staff has recommended approval of the designation and adoption of the ordinance. The Wake County Historic Preservation Commission has also made a motion to recommend approval, and the Town of Zebulon Planning Board has also made a recommendation to approve as submitted. Therefore, additionally, staff recommends approval. Therefore, staff is proposing that you adopt the ordinance 2021-31 to designate the Barbie House at 216 West Gannon Street a Wake County Historic Landmark, finding that the proposed request is in keeping with the intent of the 2030 Strategic Plan, as well as the Comprehensive Master Plan. I'm available if you have any questions, but we also have Gary Roth and Jeremy Bradham from Capital Area Preservation in the audience tonight in the event that it's something that I'll be unable to answer.
Okay, any questions? All right.
I make a motion we approve ordinance 2021-31, making the Barbie House a historic landmark designation.
Okay,
I second.
motion made and second. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. One more in the back, Gary. All right, text amendments, mobile food vendors.
Okay, we do have two text amendments before you tonight. The first is in regards to mobile food vendors. As you may recall, when our Unified Development Ordinance was passed, there was a couple things, essentially unintended consequences of the language. It actually prohibited certain situations, such as ice cream trucks, to operate unless they have already received a mobile food vendor's permit. Obviously, that's not our intent. We want to be able to allow for these truly mobile food vendors where they go to a point of sale, provide services, and then move on to the next point of sale as opposed to setting up shop for an extended period of time. Additionally, we wanted to make sure that it is very explicitly clear that town events would be exempt from the process. So if we have something like the Christmas tree lighting, those food vendors would not be required to then get permits from the town to operate for our event, as well as HOA events. If it's going to be located on an HOA land up by the community center or whatnot, that's a service to a particular neighborhood as opposed to the general public. So those exemptions were put into the ordinance. The planning board did receive comment as part of the joint public hearing, and afterwards made a positive recommendation for approval, finding that it's consistent with the 2030 strategic plan as well as the comprehensive plan, and therefore staff has provided the proposed motion to adopt ordinance 2021-32 to approve the proposed text amendments, finding it is consistent with the 2030 strategic plan as well as the comprehensive master plan. And once again, I'm available if you have any questions.
Okay, questions? Motion?
I move to approve the proposed text amendment to section 4.5.4A of the Town of Zebulon Unified Development Ordinance 2021-32, finding that the proposed request is in keeping with the intent of the 2030 strategic plan and the comprehensive master plan.
Second.
Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Okay, street grades.
Okay, the second of the two text amendments to the UDO, once again, is in response to a bit of unintended consequences. The UDO put forth very specific quantitative measurements. Unfortunately, they were not consistent with our standard specification manual. As such, all of our public works vehicles are set based on those configurations for things such as plows and other vehicles. So the staff is proposing a text amendment to section 6.10.7F of the UDO to reference the standard specification manuals as the regulatory context for the street grades. The planning board did make a positive recommendation, finding that it was consistent with the 2030 strategic plan as well as the comprehensive plan, and therefore staff can recommend approval with the sample motion on the board, finding that it's for approval of ordinance 2021-33, finding that the proposed text amendments are consistent with both the 2030 strategic plan as well as the comprehensive master plan.
Question? Okay. Motion?
I hereby approve the proposed text amendment, section 6.10.7F, Town of Zebulon Unified Ordinance 2021-33, finding that the proposed request is in keeping with the intent of the 2030 strategic plan and comprehensive master plan.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Okay, conditional zoning, 5-county mini storage.
This is one of those transition periods. I gotta grab me.
All right, CZ 2021 5-county mini stores. This case was heard at the August 10th joint public hearing. The applicant's John Sikorsky. The address is 1420 Old US Highway 264. There's 2 parcels involved, totaling 2.31 acres in size. The existing zoning is light industrial. The request before you tonight is a conditional zoning request from light industrial to light industrial conditional zoning with attached conditions. These are the 5 standards of approval. This is the vicinity map. The 2 parcels are located on Old US Highway 264, which runs parallel to US Highway 264. You have Mudcat Stadium to the southeast. There is development on site. It is an existing self-storage facility. Current zoning is light industrial. The adjacent parcel to the west is light industrial. The adjacent parcels to the south and the west are high industrial. This is looking eastbound on old US Highway 264. This is looking westbound. This is the existing self-storage facility. This is one of the adjacent warehouses. This is to the adjacent east. And then this is an adjacent warehouse to the west. Two proposed conditions attached to the proposed zoning, and the first one is allowing a self-storage facility on a minimum site size of 2 acres. And the second condition is a type A landscape buffer, which is 4 understory trees and 15 shrubs per 100 linear feet will be planted along the western property line. This is the concept plan submitted by the applicant. Everything in blue is existing, and the 2 areas in red are proposed. Each one is about 1,200 square feet. The planning board recommended approval of the request with the proposed conditions as submitted, finding that the proposed request is in keeping with the intent of the 2030 strategic plan and comprehensive master plan, and it was a unanimous vote. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Motion?
And the sample motion is in front of you, whether you'd like to approve or deny the proposed rezoning request.
Okay, I hereby approve CZ 2020-015 County Mini Storage and Ordinance 2021-34 with the following agreed upon conditions, finding that the proposed request is in keeping with the intent of the 2030 strategic plan, the comprehensive master plan, and the review standards listed in section 2.2.6.K of the UDO. Don't make me list the list.
Okay. Ms. Clark, can you add the conditions to your motion, which are right here?
The conditions are listed.
It's on the screen.
Right on
I
the
just added
screen.
the conditions.
Allowing the self-storage facility on a minimum site, 2 parcels of 2 acres, a type A landscape buffer, 4 understory trees, and 15 shrubs per 100 linear foot to be planted along the western property line, included in the motion.
Okay. Now, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. All right, 1500 to 1512 North Arundel Avenue, 2021-35.
All right, the applicant is Clyde Holt. The owner is Stephen Jordan Properties LLC. 2 parcels involved, 1500 and 1512 North Arundel Avenue. The parcels are cumulative 2.77 acres in size. The existing zoning is residential 2. The request before you today is a conditional zoning from residential 2 to heavy commercial conditional zoning district with proposed conditions. These are the 5 standards of approval. The 2 parcels are located on North Arundel Avenue, just north of US Highway 264, south of the intersection of Green Pace Road. One of the parcels requesting the rezoning is a vacant parcel. The other one does have an existing use on it, which is a retail use. You have commercial uses across North Arundel Avenue, commercial uses to the adjacent southeast. You have townhome development to the adjacent east, and then a church facility to the adjacent north. Residential 2 zonings to the adjacent north, residential multifamily and heavy commercial are to the adjacent east. Across North Arundel, you have heavy commercial zoning in red, and then light industrial zoning in the gray. Future land use map designates this parcel as mixed use. This is looking north on North Arundel with the posted public hearing sign. This is looking south on North Arundel. This is the adjacent church to the north. This is the existing retail use on the 1500 North Arundel property. And this is looking at the townhome development on the vacant 1512 North Arundel property. This was a concept plan submitted by the applicant. This is just for the 1512 North Arundel property, which is currently vacant. If the site was to be developed, it'd be a retail use. The proposed zoning conditions added to the case are the building height will not exceed 35 feet in height. The trash and recycling collection will be limited to Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. The third is a traffic impact analysis will be submitted and approved by the town of Zebulon prior to TRC approval. The fourth condition is two-part, that a fence is constructed adjacent to any residentially zoned properties. On the existing retail use, this will be constructed within 90 days of this, the approval of this zoning case. And then if this zoning case is approved, the vacant parcel would have the fence constructed prior to certificate of occupancy of the proposed building. Another condition was all uses within the heavy commercial district would be permitted except the following: an ABC store, a bottle shop, a flea market, golf course or driving range, microbrewery, micro winery, micro distillery, nightclub or dance hall, tattoo and piercing establishment, and truck stop. There is a second part of this request, and that's that the board would have to vote on whether the applicant would like to have the zoning fee waived from the proposal. The planning board's recommendation was approval of the proposed zoning conditions other than waiving the fee, as previously mentioned, finding that the proposed zoning request is in keeping with the intent of the 2030 strategic plan and the comprehensive master plan. The planning board did add an additional condition to the request, and that was to require dark sky lighting be proposed on the site. The applicant has not agreed to this, and I will let the applicant speak on that condition. Just to give you an idea of what dark sky lighting is, going from left to right, without a cap on the lighting on the light pole, you have lighting that goes very vertical. If you do, the second one to the left is, if you do put a cap on it, it still bleeds a little bit vertical. If you have a 90-degree fixture or 90-degree cutoff with the light fixture on the facing downward, you have horizontal lumens which do not exceed vertical, and then the best would be capping it so it's at an angle down. What this does is it minimizes glare while reducing light trespass and sky glow. All products approved in the program are required to be fully shielded and to minimize the amount of blue light in the nighttime environment. This slide is from the Unified Development Ordinance. It's standard 5.4.6A. What the town's lighting standards are, we do have a 90-degree cutoff, and the fixture is completely underneath the canopies, so the light would shine down. This is what an illumination plan of the mounting locations. The black circles are the pole, and then the yellow circles are what we would allow from the lumens, and that would prohibit this fixture from bleeding onto any adjacent parcels or crossing over the site's property line. Currently, our lighting fixtures allow a maximum of 30 feet in height if it's in a parking lot. If it's in a non-vehicular pedestrian area, it's a maximum of 15 feet in height. And then any lights within 50 feet of any single-family detached or duplex dwelling, we would allow a maximum of 15 feet in height. And then we have our ordinance, if it's adjacent to any single-family residential or duplex, the illumination level would be at 0.5. What the dark sky standard is, it would be, the illumination level would be 0. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Questions?
Can you go over what they're going to have agreed to as far as the fence building?
Sure. So I'll go to the aerial map. So currently, if this case was approved, the property owner has agreed to, within 90 days of this being approved, construct a fence along the townhome property line.
Okay.
In this area right here. And then when the vacant parcel comes in for development, before they get a certificate of occupancy for their building, they would construct the rest of the fence.
Okay, thank you.
Does our UDO lighting ordinance not in fact meet the dark sky lighting requirement? Especially the one where it showed the light was actually affixed up in the fixture?
What our UDO would meet, it would be this illustration right here.
Only at the better level.
The better level, correct. But it's still 90-degree cutoff, shining straight down.
So the dark light would be the best. You want it.
Correct. You wouldn't have any light coming out horizontally, it'd be angled downward.
Well, how much smaller would that be than the circles you showed? It doesn't look like it looked to me like the circles you showed under our standard lighting would be pretty minimal with,
Staff feels it is minimal. What we would allow in that case is this lumen, or the foot candles of 0.5. Dark sky, the foot candle would be at 0.
okay? What you want?
And the applicant is here if there's any questions for the applicant.
Question? Okay, the ordinance is 2021-35. Is there a motion?
I move.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
But,
Okay.
but can I say something before he makes that motion?
Can?
Right ahead.
I would like to see the fee waived. I would like to see.
I was going to bring that up after this was adopted
Okay.
because this was not a part of that.
Okay, all right.
So
It's,
if
you know, they
y'all
sort of made that
indulge me,
decision
we'll
together. Okay.
go there, and then I was going to ask those questions. So
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, this is going to be a long motion. I move we approve CZ 2020-02, which is 1500 and 1512 North Arundel Avenue, and ordinance 2021-34 with the following agreed-upon conditions. Those are: building height will be no greater than 35 feet, that the collection of trash and/or recycling from the subject property will occur between Monday through Friday between the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 p.m., that a traffic impact analysis be conducted by a licensed engineer, submitted and approved by the town of Zebulon prior to TRC approval, that a fence meeting the UDO ordinance requirements be constructed on property lines adjacent to properties with residential dwelling units, in addition to landscaping required by code. At the time of initial development on the vacant parcel, and within 90 days of finalized conditional rezoning of the developed parcel, each owner shall install and thereafter maintain a 6-foot-high opaque fence with a portion of the side or rear yard sharing a common boundary with adjacent residential zone property. All uses permitted in the heavy commercial zoning district are allowed on the parcel except ABC store, bottle shop with or premises consumption, a flea market, course or driving range, microbrewery, micro winery, or micro distillery, nightclub or dance hall, tattoo and piercing establishment, and truck stop. And I believe I can add to this that we also waive the administrative fee.
Well,
my motion.
no, let's adopt this and then
Okay.
we'll go to that. Okay.
So motion is stated without any discussion about the fee.
Second.
Okay. Other comments or discussion?
And just be clear, the applicant proposed additional conditions, but because they're UDO regulation, staff didn't include them on their proposal.
So this does not include the dark light, the dark sky?
This would include the dark sky.
It would.
It would not.
I guess as a point of clarification in accordance with state statute, the planning board did include that as part of its recommendation. However, state statute does prohibit the board from imposing conditions that the applicant does not agree upon. Ultimately, it's up to the board whether or not the proposed conditions do justify approval based on the standards that are listed in the Unified Development Ordinance. Based on our interpretation, there is a difference between dark sky compliant and our regulations, but they are minimal. If the board felt that the dark sky compliant was an absolute, staff would encourage you to engage in dialogue with the applicant before rendering a decision.
Okay. And again, I feel compelled to reiterate what you said. It seems to me, looking and studying for this, that the difference was absolutely minimal between the dark sky and what they would have to do.
0.3 and 0.5.
Well, if you look at the square footage on it, it's like minimal. So, anyway, that's my opinion. We do have a motion on the floor and a second. Beverly, did you second? Or Shannon?
Shannon
Okay, thank you. I just want to be clear. Any other discussion or comments? Okay. Ready to vote. All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. Now, part two of this does have to do with the fees, and I had it to, do this in two components. My understanding is that this was zoned heavy business under the old zoning. It's now, when it was converted not to heavy commercial, but to R20 or
Residential
something
two.
like that. Thank you. I'll get it right in a minute. I'm still getting used to the new designations. So anyway, the request is to waive the fees. My question is, would there have been any fees? Could they have proceeded with this if they had been put in as heavy commercial?
Because they're requesting conditional zoning, staff,
But they could have done it without doing conditional, right?
if they need any deviations, which
I understand that, Meade, I really do. My point is, could they have come in and put in a request without doing it conditionally?
The applicant has not proposed any conditions that would limit the potential use of their development. The conditions are more to make peace with the adjacent neighbors.
I understand. Okay, so the answer is they could have moved forward without conditional zoning. Okay. What do y'all want to do?
I make a motion we waive the fees.
Is there a second?
Second.
Made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, we go to the added items. Item 4 under old business is pulled from the consent agenda, and if I can find my consent agenda, it was item 5A, ordinance 2021-21. Shannon, you had a question on that?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so with 2021, the $15,925 is going to just be for concrete work in that patch of the alley?
Yes, ma'am. That's the intent, is to remove the existing asphalt, which is in pretty poor condition, and then to go back with concrete work.
Okay, and that number was derived because you had it bid out, or is there some kind of rubric that you used?
So
Metric?
we sought a quote just to understand kind of what the scope of that would be. And so moving forward, that would be something that we would work with, closer with Public Works to determine if the quote that we got, which was actually just under the amount that was remaining in the town common CIP budget.
Okay,
And another thing that we're working with on this piece is trying to work in unison with ZDAC, because they're in the process of working to construct the property directly beside the alley. They've pulled construction permits, so our hope is to be able to work in unison.
so by doing that, I'm assuming that right now, one of the lots, the ZDAC lot, is gravel. And so am I to understand that there's going to be a consistent pavement throughout that so that both sides are going to be concrete?
That's our hope. That's our intent. That's what we've talked with Dallas and Susan Pierce about, is trying to work together, have the joint use agreement, so that we can create that public space, that gathering space in our downtown. So what we have talked with them about and what they desire as well is that there be some synergy between the two, and that his plan, what they have contracted to have completed, includes a 4-foot sidewalk along the, I guess, the property line of that gravel lot in the alleyway, in addition to some foundation work or some footing for a sculpture that they plan to install, as well as a grass area and a gravel area for a food truck. And they also intend to do some power. So that was the discussion as of a couple of weeks ago. That's been the plan for several months now. And our hope is to work with them so that we can kind of move at the same time. And our plan is to match the sidewalk work as well.
Awesome, thank you so very much.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a motion then to adopt?
I move to approve ordinance 2021-21.
Second.
Motion made and second. No other comments or discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, ordinance 2126, office furniture.
So it's my understanding that you are seeking to provide how many cubicles for staff?
The back portion of our office is currently, was arranged to be kind of an open space. The proposal is to create 4 cubicle spaces and make sure that we have appropriate connectivity to our network. That's included as part of the full rollover. But it will provide 4 distinct and separate workspaces. Part of the rationale was the current configuration does not really lend itself well to the governor's suggested social distancing separation. And unfortunately, speaking on the phone with a mask on as well as doing work can be somewhat tedious and difficult. Over the past couple months, we've been able to rotate staff in and out. However, the individual that we hired to do part-time for census work, as well as our downtown associate community program work, is going to start coming into the office, and it was discovered that it doesn't create a real distinctive barrier between her as well as one of the other staff members.
Okay, and so once again, where was the number 10,000 arrived at? Because even the most aggressively social distanced cubicle construction options that were on the internet that I could find were coming in at under 10 grand. Is this something that the town has contracted with someone to?
We received a quote, I can't remember the name of the company, but they've done work elsewhere. Chris, what was the name of the company? Yes, thank you. Enoff? Endoff. They came in, they actually did this schematic several years ago. We worked with them to modify it and such, and we did eliminate several of the items that would have otherwise been included, including having power into each cubicle. There's an outlet, and we worked with our IT specialist and indicated that running the cord to the power box for surge protector is actually a better solution than running it in. That portion came in just slightly over $8,000, as well as working with our IT specialist regarding how much it's going to cost to make sure that we have the drops for the internet plugins. That was going to make up slightly more than the difference.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, questions?
I move to approve ordinance 2021-26.
Second.
Motion made, second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, new business. Administration proposed sale of Green Pace Property Road. Joe?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. The town acquired approximately 2 acres of real property located at 469 Green Pace Road in 2007 as a possible future fire station site. The town paid approximately $120,000 for this property. The property no longer qualifies for a fire station site, and the town does not have any use for the property for any public purpose in the foreseeable future. Michael Jordan, manager of Town to Site Investments, offered to buy the property at a purchase price of $175,000 described in the attached offer to purchase and contract. The discussion before the board is whether they are interested in selling the property at the price and the terms set out in the attached contract. I stand available to answer any questions you may have.
So there's no, and maybe this is kind of more for Sheila, there's no way that we could foresee a need to make that into a park down the road or to use in some kind of park and rec capacity? And I apologize if you hadn't really thought about that before, but.
Oh, no, actually, we discussed a public use before. I would say based on the existing location, its size, and the use around it, it's less likely to have a strong recreational value there. I think that if we were in a position to expand our park acreage, we currently already have 6 parks for a town of our size.
Right.
That we would be looking to expand our park acreage along with parks we already have. So would there be a small use? It's possible, but not likely something that we would find significant impact to our recreational services.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would tell you, when that property was acquired, it was, the thinking was that was the direction that the town was going to grow. And of course, it did a little, but not a lot. But that was the reason that it was purchased at that time. And it just, as you know, we've grown in other directions. So there was some reasoning at that time, but, you know. All right. I want to be clear, we haven't gone through upset bid yet, or we have?
If you adopt the resolution, it starts that process.
It starts that process. I wanted to be real sure where we were in the process. Thank you. All right, folks, what you want?
I make a motion we adopt resolution 2021-02, proposed sale of Green Pace property.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Okay, wellness program. Joe, you're going to do introduction on this?
Yeah, this is a little bit more than just a rollover to finance a wellness program idea. And so I wanted to do a little bit of a preamble before I recognized Stacy and Amy. So conducting business as usual in a quickly changing community like ours, where new residences and businesses bring different perspectives and expectations, is going to prove to be both inefficient and ineffective. As a service provider, we'll need to act and, more importantly, think differently. One way we are acting and thinking differently is by collaborating across departmental lines. Traditional government organizations who continue to act as a collection of separate and siloed departments won't be nearly as effective as the group who uses a multidisciplined effort to arrive at unique and cost-effective solutions. Another way that we are acting and thinking differently is by pushing down authority to where the information is, rather than following the traditional processes where information is observed at the front lines and then ferried up through the organization and back down through the organization through a hierarchy. We're pushing to empower our employees with the skills and responsibility to address problems that they witness firsthand. This change in thought and action not only accelerates the action and connects solutions more cleanly with the problems, this introduces employees to greater responsibility by exposing them to such duties as budgeting, problem solving, program development, and as you'll see tonight, public speaking. The wellness and safety committees are ways to pool together frontline employees from different departments to solve the problems they hear and see directly. Solutions offered by the safety committee, as an example, are meant to keep us a lean organization, meaning that we don't lose personnel being out of work because of an accident. We remain compliant and frugal by not having to pay a fine from OSHA or having to pay higher risk premiums on our insurance policies. The Wellness Committee, similarly, also provides programs meaning to keep us lean and frugal. Once again, if we have healthy employees, then they're not out of work, and so we don't have to hire extra employees, but also we're able to remain frugal by keeping a workforce that doesn't develop chronic diseases that results in higher premiums on our health insurance coverage. But probably more important than any of that is the programs that both safety and wellness committees develop speak to one of our core values that were adopted by our employees, and that core value is family, meaning that we're going to be an organization that employees can grow with the organization as they grow. And it's also, family is meant to be that we're going to be there for each other, but we're also going to hold each other accountable. So that's all the preamble. So joining us tonight, Stacy Paratori, who is the Deputy Clerk/HR Technician in the Administration Department, and Amy Hayden, who is the Event Coordinator in the Parks and Rec Department, are chairs of our Wellness Committee. As I shared with all staff while we were developing the FY21 budget, that this would be a very tight year, and many items that they requested were not recommended to the board. For those unfunded requests, staff has asked for consideration to utilize savings from the previous fiscal year, and that's why you are seeing some of the rollovers come before you tonight, as well as your previous meeting. And so with those requests, I've offered staff the opportunity to make their case to you to both fund the programs that they've requested, but also, as we mentioned, in growing our staff, to give them the experience so necessary to more fully develop in their career advancement. And so with that, I will introduce Stacy Paratori and Amy Hayden.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. Tonight we come before you to ask for your consideration to roll over wellness funds for the wellness biometric screening.
Having a wellness program demonstrates the town's commitment and investment to employees' well-being and the importance of living a healthy lifestyle. The purpose of our wellness program is to help employees adopt and maintain a healthy lifestyle, achieve higher employee productivity, retention, and satisfaction, and build and maintain a workplace environment, culture, and programs that support employee health and wellness.
The goals of the wellness program is to ensure that employees can actively participate in a variety of workplace wellness initiatives that support health and wellness, provide education to increase employee knowledge of health and wellness issues, provide social events and activities to increase employee morale, lowering healthcare costs, and reduce the number of days lost to illness.
The biometric screening would establish a health baseline that can be used to evaluate risks for a variety of health issues, many of which can be prevented through early detection and lifestyle changes. If an employee met 4 out of the 5 parameters, $200 would be added to their flexible spending account, which can be used towards copays, prescriptions, contacts, glasses, and items such as sunscreen, Band-Aids, and thermometers.
If an employee did not meet 4 out of the 5 parameters, they would have the option to meet with a WakeMed nutritionist, dietitian, or health coach to achieve the $200 FSA benefit. The sessions can be done virtual or in person and would cover a variety of health topics including exercise, nutrition, stress, sleep, tobacco cessation, goal setting, and behavior changes.
WakeMed would handle the screening and all numbers would be kept completely confidential. The Wellness Committee would receive a report, meet with the healthcare coach to best determine the needs of our employees and ways to improve the numbers for the following year. These results would give us a measurement for each year's progress.
The wellness program reinforces the town's core values of family, teamwork, and dependability. These funds would be used to accomplish our goals by aiding our employees in living a healthier lifestyle. Our town is growing, as well as our staff, to support that growth. We want to foster healthier employees to be productive and efficient in their jobs. The Wellness Committee wants to build the program this year and expand in future years. By making our employees healthier, we will build a more effective and efficient workforce, reduce the number of sick days, and lower healthcare costs. Thank you, and we are available for questions.
So if WakeMed's handling the screening and all the numbers are going to remain completely confidential, how will you be able to know if they've hit their marks?
We will receive a percentage of the numbers. So we would, if, for instance, if they, for the cholesterol, there would be maybe 50% were above the numbers and 50% were below. We would just get a generic percentage. So we wouldn't know specific numbers that correspond to the people.
Well, then how would you be able to decide who needs to go and then talk to a nutritionist or health coach?
WakeMed handles all of that. We have no idea who meets with who.
So they would be the ones reaching out on our behalf.
That's right.
Saying you didn't meet all of the numbers and you need to come in and talk, and then they would let us know when everyone has hit those marks and the funds would be dispersed. Is that how it's going to work?
What they do is at the screening, you would find out your numbers right then. You would be with a WakeMed representative and they do the screening. And so you would know immediately what your numbers were. And if they're under, you have the opportunity to meet with a nutritionist or whatever recommendation they make.
Okay, thank you.
I worked with the wellness program when I was on Risk Management Services Board through the league, and there was, if they knew their number and then they refused to participate, there was some form of reprisal for that. And in that case, it had to do because with the cost of the insurance to that person, because the insurance company provided the wellness program free of charge. So my question is if that person hits a wrong number, is there any kickback on them if they say, well, I don't care, it is the way it is, I'm not going to do anything?
No, we're not penalizing employees. What this is to do is we're giving them this incentive in hopes that to make them healthier, and if they decide that because they do have the opportunity to meet, but if they decide not to, that they don't have to. They just wouldn't get the incentive.
Right. Well, I knew we did it a little bit differently. I wanted to be sure how this was being applied. And I'm fine with that. It's just... Okay.
And so we don't have any plans to pursue any program through the insurance companies that we work with that would perhaps participate or direct a program like that?
We can look at that when open enrollment, but this is a program through Wake Med that we were wanting to pursue.
3 questions or clarifications. Number 1, does this apply to everyone, including full-time and part-time, or only those who are enrolled in the health plan?
It applies to anyone that's enrolled in a health plan. that's
Okay,
on
and
health
then
insurance.
number 2, is there an approximate cost per year? Has anybody estimated what this would cost? Like, what do you think, 3/4 of the employees would meet this and get the $200? And what's the expense for Wake Med?
Well, we have budgeted as if all employees were participating, and the cost for Wake Med is $3,500 to perform the biometric screening. And that includes, they do reports, that includes the employee's time. They estimate the reports to take roughly 5 hours. That's mileage to come out here for them to do the assessments and the screenings. Like I said, it covers the screening and the nutritional classes. the additional
Okay, so it's
classes.
$3,500 to Wake Med plus up to $200 for every employee if they pass 4 out of 5.
That's correct.
All right, and then number 3, this is construed to be a pilot project, year 1, and we'll see how it operates, whether we continue it.
That's right. Our goal is this year to establish the numbers, and we're hoping that people will see their difference in their numbers each year. And we're hoping that this will get funded each year so people can use this year as a baseline and see their numbers just get better and better.
All right, thank you.
I thought we had a wellness program with Wake Med in the past because it seemed to me that we had budgeted $10,000 for it.
For wellness, there's other events that we've done that are wellness, such as our fruit baskets and our
Right.
flu shot clinic coming up. But this is just specifically for the biometric screening program.
Right. So it's expanding it.
Yes, sir.
I want to be clear, that's all. Thank you. All right, other questions?
What are we currently spending on our employee wellness so far, like the wellness baskets and things like this? How much, like, I know what this is going to increase it, but what's it going to increase it to?
Well, we had 12,000 funded in the budget.
And the additional 20,000 will bring it up to 32,000 for wellness initiatives?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? What's your pleasure?
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2020-29.
Okay,
Second.
motion made, second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, planning, text amendment, 3131, ordinance 2021-36.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board again. This is the decision point for the text amendment for section 31.31 of our code of ordinances. One thing to note that because this is not a UDO regulation, it does not require a planning board recommendation. That's why we're able to hold just the public hearing tonight and possible decision tonight. As you're aware, we do have one vacant position on the planning board that's an ETJ member. The action tonight, if approved, would transfer that from an ETJ member into an in-town member. And I believe we do have a couple candidates that would still be interested in possibly pursuing that. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed modification and have provided the motion referencing both the section as well as the North Carolina General Statute 160D-301. And I'm available if anybody has any questions.
Question?
Say if, you know,
That
would
would-
they have to reapply, the process would have to reapply for that?
I don't know how that would work, but ultimately, the board, if somebody did decide that they would like to transfer from one board to another, they would have to still obtain appointment from the Board of Commissioners.
It seems to me that for the planning board, and I admit I could be wrong, but it seemed like there was one person left.
That was correct, and
That person had, excuse me, interrupting, but that person had said first choice was planning board, second choice was something else, but he was not picked for anything, but his name was still there.
I think it was Mr. Harris, wasn't it?
I don't recall.
I don't recall his name.
But I know that that individual lived in town and was not eligible for the ETJ position.
Correct.
This would make him eligible. However, he would still have to receive an affirmative appointment from the Board of Commission in order to
Right.
Become part of that
Well,
board.
we need
If-
to reach out to him, and make
Yeah,
him aware of it.
that's my question.
Okay, other questions? Does that get you, Glenn?
Yeah.
Answer your stuff? Other questions? All right, what's your pleasure?
I hereby move to approve the proposed text amendment to section 31.31 of the Town of Zebulon Code of Ordinances to allow for 5 in-town and 2 ETJ Planning Board members in accordance with NCGS 160D-301.
Second?
Okay, motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Multimodal transportation plan.
Okay, this is actually an item that we discussed at the joint public hearing. As you're aware, with the possible sale of the southern portion of the GSK property, that area did not show up on any of our transportation plans because the thought at the time was that GSK was possibly going to expand their operations into that location. Now that they're interested in potentially selling that, we want to make sure that we evaluate that, and as such, the town the town staff is proposing to have Judd Street be designated as a collector all the way from Arundel to Worth Hinton Street. One, that will provide decreased response, well, I should say improved response times for emergency service vehicles. Additionally, it'll add an additional east-west corridor in that location. Where currently to get to that section of Worth Hinton, you'd have to go up to Green Pace and back down, or down to Gannon and then back up. This will improve interconnectivity throughout the town. The town is proposing that the cross-section be as illustrated on the screen, where it's a 2-lane, one each direction, with a divided median for the portion that would be constructed. I'm available if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, the planning board did make an affirmative recommendation to approve as submitted, and town staff can recommend approval of the proposed amendment to the 2030 strategic plan.
Okay? Questions?
With the lane median, does that mean that if someone needs to turn into their driveway or whatever, that they're going to have to go all the way down and make a U-turn at some point and then come back in the other direction?
No.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is our Unified Development Ordinance does not allow for driveways on collector streets. There's existing nonconformities. However, those, the only time that they would have to make this improvement is in a situation where that side of this parcel, or both sides of the parcel actually, are in the process of being developed, in which case the driveway component would also have to be brought into compliance as well. So there won't be driveways on the collector. However, for intersections or other, let's say if something does get developed where they require a large section to remain open for, let's say, emergency service vehicles, obviously that use would prevent the median from being installed.
Other questions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the the proposed amendment, Town of Zebulon Multimodal Transportation Plan, finding that the proposed request is in keeping with the intent of the 2030 Strategic Plan and Comprehensive Master Plan.
Excuse me,
Sorry, I should also note that it is ordinance 21-37.
Let me amend that a motion to add ordinance 2021-37.
Thank you. I was fixing to do that. All right. We have a motion and a second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Ordinance 2021-38, Sidney Creek annexation. Is there any other? Okay. All right.
Next month, I'm bringing caffeine, guys. It's not going to be just water.
So this was the case that we just had the public hearing on. It's two parcels, 214 acres, requesting annexation to the town of Zebulon. These are the four standards that you would evaluate to annex the property into the town. And staff's recommendation is approval of the annexation, and then there's a sample motion below.
I move to approve the proposed annexation for 2715501-370 and 2715410-167 for the tract known as Sidney Creek, and ordinance 2021-38, finding that the proposed request is in keeping with the approved special use permit, section 2.2.2G of the UDO, and NCGS 160A-58.1.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion?
Couple questions for the board to think about. If I'm doing my math right, this is about 350 plus properties or tracks, well beyond the 4-minute response time for the fire department. So I ask you to think, should we request or could we ask for some property on this site for a fire department, or at least look forward here a little bit? So that's a lot of homes outside the 4-minute range.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up as a comment. Let's see what the planning board has to say. Or, excuse me, the planning department.
Typically, those negotiations would take place at an earlier time. There's details in the new Unified Development Ordinance that would encourage those type of conversations through either a conditional rezoning or a planned development. In this context, the developer probably would have had to come in for a conditional zoning in order to accommodate the necessary density that he needed to make the development work. We could always work with the developer. However, it's probably not something that we'd be able to require at this point in time.
I think it would be wise to bring it up just due to the fact of the sheer number of homes, and it would be a big plus for anybody buying out there if there was a fire department closer.
Yeah, there's a portion.
I will tell you that there are some other properties out that way that are looking at potential development, so that opportunity may not vanish simply because of this. There may be other properties that, so I realize that if we go in, we got to pay for them, just like the one we just agreed to put back up for sale, but still, opportunity's not totally lost. And as you say, you can still, have that conversation. Any other questions, Ken?
Oh, that's good, thank you.
Sure. Okay, we have a motion. Did we get a second? We did. Did we get, yeah, Glenn, you seconded it,
Mr. Rock,
right?
second.
Okay, all right, sorry, just want to be sure I'm doing it right. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. All right, business retention and expansion program agreement.
As you'll recall, at the work session a couple weeks ago, the Community and Economic Development Committee provided an overview on kind of our comprehensive goals as it relates to economic development for the town of Zebulon. One particular tool of that is our Business Retention and Expansion Program. Currently, we do contract those services through the Zebulon Chamber of Commerce to perform a very detailed, specific list of tasks. This does not include going out to solicit new industries or corporations, but it does work hand in hand with the corporations and the businesses that we currently do have to help keep them here, as well as help them expand if the time comes. With that, the staff has put together a contract agreement with the specific deliverables as discussed at the work session. These include business visits, serving the business community, conduit between businesses and planning development, having the Zebulon Next Economic Growth Conference, as well as providing quarterly updates to this group. Staff has provided the agreement and recommends approval of that agreement as drafted. I'm available if you have any questions. We also have Denise Nowell, the president of the Zebulon Chamber of Commerce, who oversees this program for the town.
Questions?
Larry, are you going to ask about it?
Yeah, could we request that the quarterly reports be written as opposed to just oral?
Absolutely, yeah. So how much does this push this year's budget dollars to the chamber?
The proposed amount, or the amount that was approved as part of the budget, was $20,000.
Which is this?
This is the contract component. The $20,000 was approved as part of the budget that was approved in June and effective in July 1.
I understand that, Mike. Is it 40,000?
No, it's 20.
So 20 is the net amount going to the chamber?
That's correct.
Okay,
For
I'm
fiscal
sorry, I
year
want to be
21.
clear that it wasn't 20 in the budget and this is an additional.
No.
I didn't think it was, but I just want to be clear, sorry.
Nope, that's perfectly okay.
Okay, other questions?
Denise, could I ask you a question? Okay, so I know that it's been kind of like a topic, something that we've been desiring, at least several board members, is perhaps looking into forming some kind of welcome wagon. And really, I thought that's what you were going to be asking about, Larry. Is that something that the chamber is going to be able to consider or look into or try to work with folks to accomplish at some point?
So I know that Commissioner Laux and I have had a couple of conversations about this. I think that there is a place for this. I don't know that that's something that we can move on very quickly. It would definitely take some time to plan for it because it will require staff time and it would definitely require execution. So it would definitely be something that we could work together on and talk about as a separate item. I don't think it would be included with this, but I'm open to conversations about it. I wouldn't say that we're in a position right now to implement that, but it's definitely something that could be discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me add to that, if I may, that there was a letter that was written, and Linda Johnson actually paid for it herself. And it is now being attached to the packet from the town of Zebulon. It's a welcome letter, and it's being attached to the packet by every time there's a new trash can delivered to a new resident. Now, I realize that's not a welcome wagon, but it's a first step. And so anyway, Chris, how many of those have we put out?
We average 25, 30 new customers per month, and so that'd be our average. We're still sending out each month, especially since being on subdivisions.
Well,
Can we get a copy of that so that we can take a look at it?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Initially, it was 100 letters were printed, and she paid for it out of her own pocket. And I signed it, by the way.
Well, I know that she's really, really very excited to welcome people, so.
I need to say something.
I know, I'm sorry.
I really do not think that the town money should be spent on welcome wagon. I think that's more of a civic position. One of the civic organizations do it. So I really would not like to see it with this.
And I think that that's something that when Commissioner Laux and I talked about it initially, he said that he had spoken with a couple of the civic groups that might be interested in that as well.
Yeah, when this first started, we had probably 35 to 40 people who said they wanted to help with it. We just lacked someone heading it up and then possibly seed funding it to get it started. But it was actually also to help businesses in town so they could get their name and face in front of the new residents coming here. So it was a win-win for churches, civic groups, businesses. We were trying to bring everybody together.
Sure. And I also have seen this model work really well in a couple of other communities where it's actually a paid consultant that comes in and implements that program. So that's something that's also something that can be looked at.
Well, there was a brochure that was put out by the chamber some years ago. In fact, we still, I think Joe still has a copy of it here, that was full of ads. And what happened was that well, I know my daughter was one of the people that went out and sold the ads and made a commission on what they sold, but it had maps, it had tons of businesses in it that bought ads and, you know, touting what they did. So y'all might want to look at that. It actually was a very nice brochure. There was a map on each side at a different scale. If you haven't seen it, y'all take a look at it. But that was done, I don't know how long ago, but it was actually done by the chamber, and it paid for itself through the ads, and I'm sure it did require some additional staff, but basically, and Michelle was just one of the ones that went out. But there were people that went out and sold those ads, made money for themselves, made money for the chamber, and it was a very nice brochure that was put out.
And that's similar to what I've seen work in some other communities. I wouldn't say that they're all done by the chamber, but I have seen that work as well.
Okay, just information. Thank you, Beverly. Anything else you had?
Nope.
Okay. Anything else? Need a motion if you're so inclined.
I make a motion we approve the contract for the fiscal year 2021 to have the Zebulon Chamber of Commerce provide economic development services in the form of the Business Retention and Expansion Program with the defined deliverables.
Including written quarterly reports.
Oh, okay, if you want them written.
You okay with that? Okay.
Well, they could email them so you don't have to waste paper.
All right.
Second.
Motion made and second. Other comments or discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, North Arundel sidewalk.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. I come before you today to discuss construction of the missing links of the North Arundel sidewalk that we talked about. I believe it was in the June work session leading up to your adoption of the current fiscal year budget. So the project is, as was presented to you at that time, and that would be to complete the sidewalk currently in front of Zebulon Baptist Church down to Lee Street. As well as stamped crossing at North Street. And so what we've got to present to you today is based on some of the community engagement feedback from our board members as well as our work sessions. Our Public Works Department did bid out this project. Our base bid, and we did it out in segments just to understand that there could be budget constraints. So the base bid was the sidewalk from Zebulon Baptist Church to Glen Street. The first alternate was completing the sidewalk from Glen Street to Lee Street. And then the second alternate was the stamped asphalt. The discussion before the board is whether or not to award the base bid the bid in alternate 1, the base bid in alternate 1 and 2, or to reject all bids. The Public Works Department did receive 3 bids. Hollins Construction was the lowest responsible bidder with a total cost of $150,280 for construction. With that information, if we include anticipated inspection costs as well as a contingency of 15%, the total of this project is $180,585. So additional funds in the amount of $37,000 would be required for us to complete this project. There are residual funds from capital projects in the last fiscal year that were not used, and so these would be recaptured and utilized and reallocated for the sidewalk construction and stamp sidewalk in North Street. This request does meet your Zebulon 2030 strategic plan, and I'm available to answer questions, and I may also defer to Chris Ray, who bid the process.
So how many crosswalks would be included in the third alternate?
It's one stamped crosswalk at the intersection of North Street.
So that's an expensive stamped crosswalk, isn't it? So what does a painted crosswalk cost?
Yeah, it is all 4 corners of the intersection.
Okay.
I think the mobilization is probably a big expense of that, as well as it is an expertise thing to be able to heat up that asphalt and stamp it.
Well, when you said one, I wasn't thinking this. I was thinking this. Just one across. Still expensive. Okay, well, I'll shut up and see what the board wants to do.
Do you have the price for just painting it, or is that not an option? Painting instead of doing the stamped crosswalk, or is that what we would get with the base plus alternative 1?
That's what you would get. So base plus alternate 1, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, is just painting. It would get you to Lee Street and just painting the intersection. Chris, is that? Yes.
So there would be crosswalk markings then?
Correct.
Okay.
Is the stamping really required on all 4 legs when you've got stop signs on the cross streets coming in?
I would say it's not required, but I think once you've gone the route of mobilizing and to start that process, that to have the most impact for the project and for the most aesthetic appeal, you'd go ahead and do all 4 corners. That's typically what you'd see at an intersection like that.
I'm just kind of thinking, since there's a stop sign there, the traffic technically comes to a halt. So if they're a white crosswalk, they would clearly see what's there, where on the state road, you've got traffic moving, and anything you can do to get their attention that there may be people walking, I'm all for stamping that, but I'm really wondering if the cross streets require that.
Well, we didn't bid it out just to do the 2 segments on Arundel Avenue, so we'd have to kind of determine what that cost would be. I would say that, yes, it has that safety piece, but I think by doing all 4, it's going more into that economic development, that community pride, your branding, the message, the appeal that you want to send to visitors coming into town. I think it's really exciting. We saw WRAL had an article about Old Raleigh Distillery, and I'm really hoping that brings a lot of people from outside of our community into our downtown. And what that does is it starts to set that tone of what to expect when you get to our downtown.
Is this the direction that we're going to be moving with our crosswalks in the future? Is it we're going to be moving towards stamping all of them?
I think that would be our hope, not all cross intersections, but I think around your downtown core, I think that would be something that staff would like to see, but at the end of the day, as in this process, that's ultimately going to be your decision.
But this is technically the downtown periphery.
Yes, okay. I'm not completely up to date with the terminology there, but yes.
Thanks.
So it's basically serving 2 purposes. One is the aesthetics, and the other one is to get somebody to slow down right there at that squeeze point.
Absolutely.
Because everybody kind of
We need to put them all the way up the road.
merges in right there, trying to see who can get in that other lane before it runs out.
Yes, sir.
Do you want the numbers for what you're suggesting?
I don't have any idea what don't know if we can cut the cost in half if we only stamp.
Well, what you could do, and I really don't care, it's up to y'all,
Yeah.
okay? But what you could do is approve alternate 2 and ask for update numbers that we could add at a later date. And by a later date, I'm talking about before they get moving on this. I'm not talking about stretching this thing out. But if you're sincere about that, that's one way to handle it. Okay.
I don't know how much we'd actually save because the
Approve base
equipment.
plus alternate 1 and ask for more information on alternate 2, which I'm assuming, how long would it take to get that, Chris? I mean, that may not even be feasible, but.
Let me give you a little additional context to that $37,000 price. The portion on North Street, the asphalt there is in poor condition and it cannot be stamped. So it does include milling and placing new asphalt down so it can be stamped. So the actual crosswalk itself, stamping, if all 4 intersections or approaches were good, is $27,000 to stamp it. But because North Street, both sides, that asphalt is not in good enough condition to stamp it, we're having to mill it and install new asphalt. So, in those on North Street, we are getting some new asphalt, which is new value.
So what you could do is if you painted those, you wouldn't have to mill it. And then whenever it was repaved, we could stamp it.
Yes, sir, that is always an option.
And so this crosswalk is not the one, it's the one at North Street?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, North Street.
Okay, all right.
That's right at the Baptist Church and Andy Gay's office.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Chris, how wide is that sidewalk gonna be?
The sidewalk that's going down Arundel Avenue is going to be a 5-foot wide sidewalk. And are you talking about the crosswalk? Crosswalk's going to be approximately about 10 feet, time it's stamped and painted out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, Chris. All right, folks, other questions? What you want to do?
I make a motion we accept, award the contract to Hollins Construction, base bid alternate 1 and alternate 2.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, other questions, comments? All in favor?
Can you include your ordinance number in your motion?
What?
Can you include the ordinance number in your
Oh,
motion?
excuse me, I'm sorry.
2021-39.
2021-39, okay.
Got it. Okay. Other questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-1. Thank you. All right. Resolution 2021-03, Weaver's Pond, Phase 7.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Tonight we come in front of you, which seems to be a regular thing here recently with accepting of streets. We are asking you for consideration of acceptance and maintenance of Weaver's Pond Phase 7 roadway and storm drainage. Just for your familiarity, Weaver's Pond is located off Pippin Road. This Phase 7 is 44 homes. Tonight we're asking you to accept 1,333 linear feet or 0.25 miles of streets, which is made up of 3 sections. It also includes 1,111 linear feet of storm drainage. The subdivision has met all the TRC requirements and is consistent with the street and storm drainage specifications. It will be adding $235,000 to our fixed assets. The final overlay, which will be completed at 80%, and some sidewalks have a bond in place in the planning department valued at $106. And if you're keeping total and tally, with what we accepted last month with Autumn Lakes, and if you approve this one at Weaver's Pond, it'll bring our total miles of town streets to 26.96. And I will give you a forecast. We'll be back next month, and with accepting some more streets. But tonight we ask your approval of Resolution 2021-03. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
So where are we in the build-out of this? Like, how much more?
Okay. Weaver's Pond has Phase 8. There's a Phase 8 to Weaver's Pond, which is approximately another 50 homes just north of 7. They're also got section, and they've got a little bit out of order, what we're calling section Phase 5 and Phase 6. Phase 6 is under construction now with this roadway stone and curb and gutter being placed, and asphalt should be placed shortly. And then we can be able to plat it, and then they got one fairly large section left, which is Phase 5. So I would say they're in with the approval of these lots, they're probably in the 508 room average of lots available of the 728 total. But I can get you the total
Okay, so
number.
we've got like another 140 homes to go.
Yes, ma'am. That's a rough estimate. I'll be glad to get you exact one. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
No,
tonight.
that's fine, that's fine. Well,
Sounds like our great plan director has that information.
As of right now, we have, within Weaver's Pond, 341 lots that have yet to begin construction. Some of those lots are platted, but not all of them.
Other questions?
I never read that.
Motion? We're gonna spend the night here.
I make a motion we adopt Resolution 2021-03.
I second.
Motion made, second. Other comments or discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
At some point, can we see the total projected costs of the street overlays and millings 20 years from now, so that we have an idea that when all of this comes due and it's fallen on the town, how much in total we're going to have in reserves in order to maintain these streets when they've reached their end of life?
Okay, we can do that next month when we bring the next streets. Clearly, it's going to be an estimate because we're projecting 20 years out, but we'll use
that's
the
fine. I
CPI.
just want to have an idea of what we have to prepare and plan for when these streets come in need of repair and replacement.
Okay, we'll do that in next month's report.
And you do
Awesome.
have the PAL bill, projections.
Yes.
Right, but that doesn't cover all of it.
Yeah, we'll project the PAL bill out 20 years, and we'll project out the cost for 20 years.
Thank you so very much.
No problem.
Okay, all right. Motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, personnel policy revisions. Joe?
Yeah, it's really Eric. This is something that the board initiated. I just make myself available if there's any questions. It hasn't been vetted by staff, but I'll do my best to answer any questions. But this is really something that Eric developed for you all.
I do have a question. D6, it's a completely new paragraph added in there. I mean, just explain it. It sounds like it's just saying the same thing that's already in here. But I don't just paragraph 6, D6.
Trying to get to it.
The town manager, as well as the board through the mayor, has the authority to conduct investigations into personnel activities from time to time. Some of them are described in the personnel policy, but not all of them. So there might be an occasion where an investigation is merited, and this just emphasizes that point. It's not like some investigations are excluded and others are included. It's just that it's a very broad mandate to do what's necessary in the best interest of the town, and that's what this emphasizes.
Would you have to use a consultant in order to do
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time
Would
hearing.
you have to using a consultant to do the investigations that fall under number 6?
No, ma'am, not necessarily.
Okay. It just sounds like it's covered, so I just
It
don't
is.
see much.
That's true.
Huh?
This is a section that I think lawyers probably love, just because it tells you that just because of all the other things we said, we can still do other things if we want to. And that's the tone in the personnel policy anyway, especially the investigative section.
Okay, anything else, Mel?
I'm just not crazy about that paragraph. I don't know.
Other question? Is there a motion?
I move to adopt the revisions in the policy presented, Article 4, Working Conditions and Expectations. I'm not quite sure if that's how it needs to be worded.
Well, you just said we adopt what's presented, right?
It's presented.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Other comments or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? No, oh, I'm sorry, Bev, I thought you were.
Well, I don't like it, but you know. Hey.
Well, okay, we got it. All right, thank you. Hopefully, there won't be any.
It never has to be done.
All right, okay, we're getting sort of close to the end. Board comments, I'll start with Larry tonight.
Nothing to add tonight.
Thank you. I don't have anything. Terrible. Shannon?
I would like to take just a moment to, I guess, acknowledge in this meeting the individuals from the fire department that were unable to be recognized in a ceremony because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that would be firefighter Austin Morgan, Lieutenant Brian Blackley, Lieutenant Zachary McLeod, firefighter Paul Pierce, firefighter Dwayne Perry, senior firefighter Jason Siago, and Captain Larry Woodard Jr. I would just like to comment that I appreciate all of our fire department's hard work, but especially would like to commend these firefighters for making the effort to save lives and really contribute to our town and our quality of life. And in addition, I would also like to recognize Erica Parson Butler, who has become the town of Zebulon's Tar Heel Traveler, according to WRAL. She is an artist here in Zebulon and also a member of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. And I just think that that is a wonderful honor and designation that we should celebrate because these are people from across the state that are vetted, and to have someone in Zebulon doing such amazing work that they've been recognized, I'm very proud.
That was a very nice piece on REL today about it, by the way. Glenn?
I'd just like to take this time to show the appreciation of one of our longtime businesses downtown that closed, Byron's Restaurant, for the years of service that they've had in this community and for the impact that they've had on this community and the positive impact that they've had. Hopefully we will get some other business in that space that lasts as long and have a positive effect on the community as well.
Be a lot of people go hungry at breakfast.
I'm hungry now.
Okay, thank you, folks. All right, manager's report, Joe.
I'm going to recognize a couple of members of the staff. The first is with the COVID-19 restrictions, the events that we typically plan for the fall will not be able to happen, but we're going to try to offer versions of those. And while the winter events are probably in jeopardy as well, we're busy trying to develop alternatives to those as well. So to provide details on our efforts as well as the plans for the fall, I'm going to recognize Sheila Ong, our Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening again. Just wanted to take this opportunity to provide some just general updates. You may be aware that as of this afternoon, the governor has announced that we'll enter phase 2.5. Doesn't have significant impact on what we are able to do and not do compared to what we can currently do. The good news is that we anticipate being able to open our playgrounds as of Friday at 5 p.m. One thing that we are currently, as we found out that there was potential for him to open those this week, our staff began to inspect our playgrounds to just make sure that everything is good and safe. Just before we had playgrounds closed, we had installed safety surfacing. That safety surfacing it maintains its safety features by kids playing on it. Parts of it compact, and then it getting kicked up kind of helps it maintain its safety features. And so with kids not playing on it, there's some things that we'll have to do to get those playgrounds ready now that we know we can definitely open them. So we are working diligently to try and get those playgrounds open as soon as possible. And so that's coming soon, and we're really excited about that because we know the kids have missed that since, I think they've been closed since March now. So that's going to be a huge bonus, and the kids are going to be really excited about that. Give a few snapshots of kind of what we've noticed from our community is that they're definitely eager to do something. One of the examples that I shared with our staff is that it floored me that 12 families took the time to register to play bingo in their cars. And if you think through that, I mean, anywhere that you have to go through a registration process or sign up for something, you have to have an account. And so if there were new participants, which we had, people took the time to set up an account to pay $3 to play bingo in their car. So that tells us that they're really excited and they're looking for something to do. And we had a great time. But that tells us that people are ready. They're okay with doing things different. We've offered bingo, several times before, even in the last year. It was a free program at that. So now that we know that in addition to our bingo, we released some arts programs about 2 weeks ago. We released them about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. My phone was going off at 10 o'clock that night that within that short period of time, the programs had filled up. And these are programs that typically filled at the last second, or if they filled, but they would make at the last second. And so that tells you too, people are wanting something to do. And so we're really excited to be able to finally be in that position where we can offer these in-person experiences. They might look different, they might feel different, but there's a new normal for us right now, and we still want to provide these services. I'm going to give you like a brief overview of the YMCA. They weren't able to get the program up and running as fast as we thought, but they are going to start next Tuesday. We currently have kids enrolled in that program. Parks and Rec staff, so Amy and Tim were able to get desks from our local elementary schools to provide the kids with desks and chairs, so that's moving forward. In our fitness programs, we started back up. It cooled off a little bit, and so we had people really excited to be doing some of our fitness programs outside. Last Tuesday or Thursday, I can't remember which day, we had someone driving by and saw our program outside, and they stopped, drove up, and said, I live just down the street and I had no idea y'all offered these here. I'm gonna be back. And she did return. So that's really exciting to, now we're also getting to experience new people because we've changed how we do things a little bit. So with that said, we can increase some indoor activities with some considerations up to 25. Outdoor activities can be increased up to 50 with some considerations. So we'll make some adjustments. There are some allowances for indoor fitness activities with limitations, so we're going to continue to navigate what that's going to look like, how we can keep everybody safe in our facility. We may still do a mixture of some indoor and some outdoor things because people seem to really like being outdoors as well. To give you a quick overview, so we have completed our farmers market season. We are going to continue with our September pop-up market as originally planned. So that will be downtown in the public lot September 23rd from 4 to 7 p.m. So there'll be plenty of time for you to come check us out before we have to be back here for a work session at 7 o'clock. So I hope to see you at both. And we are currently working, so because of the event restrictions, we have to be very careful on what we allow at our farmers market. And we have to be very careful to make sure it still comes across. We're considered a grocery store. And so we have to be careful and make sure we still come across as a grocery store. And so if we feel and our vendors feel that we will have enough farm or food-related products, we do expect to offer an October pop-up market as well as a November pop-up market. And depending on state regulations, we may be able to add some additional craft things at that time, but I have no way, we can't plan for what we don't know, so we're planning for what we can do now. The movie nights, so we had anticipated doing some lawn chair theater type things. Those are being done successfully across our state and across our nation with some differences. Some are doing drive-in theaters, some are doing a pod style. So we're gonna tiptoe into it. We are going to do a drive-in theater at Community Park on September 18th. There will be limitations. We're gonna kind of see how this works for us, and then it may be that in October our plan is to do another movie experience, and based on state regulations, what's going on in Wake County, that may be something that we'd be able to do, what's considered like a pod, where you rent that space for your family to watch the movie basically, and there's some limitations in how many people you can have in that pod, but that's a format that is working across the state. But we're working with the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Association to kind of understand how that framework fits into state regulations as well. If we are able to make that October movie in the park happen, not necessarily in a drive-in style, our hope is we obviously can't do trunk or treat with current restrictions. And so our goal is to be able to provide each pod with some activities, some fun kits, work with people in the community that typically participate in trunk or treat to provide some giveaways to each family. So we're still trying to work up some activity kit for the family to be able to do and enjoy and make a fun night of it when we do that movie. Heyday, I'm really disappointed to say we're just not going to be able to make Heyday happen. What we do want to do is something that the goal last year with Heyday is to highlight our public services and to share that with the community, get people familiar with who we are, what we do, work on our community relations between Parks and Rec Department, Public Works, Fire Department, Police Department, and as we grow, there'll be opportunities to include like your Planning Department and your Finance Department. But we are not able to plan such a large-scale event. What we do want to do is take the entire month of October and work with each of these departments. They're going to be assigned a week where we're going to celebrate them that entire week. We're working on videos to talk about the different careers, maybe some of the equipment. We're going to personalize each week for that department and the message that they want to get across. And what's really excited is the Fire Prevention Week will fall in October. So the fire department had already been working on a lot of things to help get their message out. So we're going to be able to further that. A Rescue Rangers camp that we were not able to do in early COVID summer camp times, we are going to bring it back as a program and work with each department to bring preschool-aged kids and connect them to the different departments and the equipment that they use and the jobs that they do. So we'll be able to do that. We also are, if you recall last year, we placed signs around town to bring attention to the fact that we were going to have Heyday. To bring even more attention to that, we placed hay bales out with scarecrows. So we want to kind of expand upon that this year. So our goal is to do hay bale, I call them decorations, but I don't know what a different word to use right now. But anyways, we are assigning one to each department, and so the department, we will be able to decorate those to represent each department and what they do. And those will be across town. And our goal is to also engage the community by offering a fall yard decoration, People's Choice and/or juror competition. We've still got to work that out. but we want to engage the community and still get the community feel, celebrate our town, educate the public about our services to the public. We still want to be able to do that in October. We just won't be able to do it in the same way. So we also have Veterans Day in the same time frame. We're not going to be able to have our veterans at the community center, but we do want to still do something. So our staff is working on making that a drive-through type event where there'll be different stations that they'll be able to drive through. They'll still be able to get their breakfast. We're trying to work with some community partners to do a giveaway for them. We'll still have some of our we'll add some equipment being on display, working with a lot of our partners, increasing the partners that we work with to have some more military representation. So you'll see more information about that coming through. I know we want to figure out a way to do some sort of highlight PSA or a slideshow that's on Eastwick TV or on our Facebook page or on our website, because we won't be able to show the slideshow of our veterans at the community center this year. So we're working to do that as well. Our holiday events, we will not be able to plan for Santa pictures at this time with certainty. So what we would like to do is our Easter Bunny Cruise was a great success. So since we can't necessarily bring kids to see Santa, we're going to take Santa to see the kids. So we're going to do a similar format. We're working with the police department and the fire department to drive Santa around. He won't need his reindeer and sleigh. So we're excited that the fire department has offered that service to Santa. And we will work with the police department to ensure that we have the best route. We will not be able to move forward with the tree lighting. And I think that disappoints me the most of everything, because I'll be honest with you, that is one thing. The weekend before I started to work for the town of Zebulon was the tree lighting. It was a rainy evening, and I had props to everybody that was out there that night, that they had worked so hard, and then to see that event transform and all of the different departments and all the community members come together in the different organizations. And we went from an event that had 400 people in the previous year to 4,000 people, and just the excitement that came around that event. It does disappoint me, but we just can't pull it off with everything that it takes, with what we know now and the amount of resources it takes, that we just don't have enough time to make that happen. But what we do want to do is we're going to be working to create photo opportunity stations throughout our downtown. We would like to work with the different businesses and initiate some sort of candy cane hunt or business hunt where people are going to patronize the different businesses that are downtown. We also want to work with ZDAC to continue the downtown business window decoration contest. We would like to also engage the community and encourage a yard decoration contest for Christmas and do a People's Choice again. And we also would like to do a Lights on Zebulon Day. And on that day, at a certain time, the mayor will we hope that we'll be able to have the mayor turn on the tree, and all of our community members turn on the lights in their yard at the same time and post a video of them turning it on. And we should be able to compile that into a video as well. The Christmas parade, I have received some questions about the Christmas parade. That is an event that's put on by the chamber. I would say it's probably going to fall in the same category as the tree lighting, as what it takes to put it on with the unknown of right now. The Raleigh Christmas parade is canceled, just to give you some context on what to expect. There are, I would say this, what I'm hearing across our profession and a lot of the different vendors that I've worked with, that a lot of the live virtual type events are just, it's a lot of work and they're not going well. They're not well attended. And so that's just something that will have to be navigated, but I think that there are still some opportunities that we could engage the public. And with that, if there's any questions, that's not all encompassing of all the programs that we're going to offer. We have started a rec report newsletter So it will start going out on a regular basis. And we are seeing more engagement from the public on that newsletter. I think Hannah ran a report for me, and we sent that out, and I want to say within 2 hours, 12 people had registered for programs. So it was a great piece.
Is there any way to make the COVID portion of when you register online autofill, so you don't have to go in and retype in all of the same information? You can just go and click accept, because that's an awful lot of additional information input.
Did you have that trouble recently?
Mm-hmm.
Bingo?
I'm sorry?
Was it with the bingo program?
No, because I don't really remember the COVID for that. I did that when it first
Okay.
dropped. This was for like the tennis and things like that.
I'll check into it. I know early on, before any registrations that happened earlier, we had to go back and have people refill that out.
Yeah.
Before we added that waiver. So I'll see if maybe there was a glitch on
Okay.
any of the programs. Thank you for letting me know.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Concludes my report for the night, but I want to recognize Mike Clark. You did not receive a development application for September, so you won't have a joint public hearing. But Mike is going to offer that time to do some development training, and I just wanted him to share with you a little bit more detail about what that training will entail.
Good evening. Because we typically have the joint public hearing night pre-locked in for both the Board of Commissioners as well as our Planning Board, we decided to utilize that opportunity as a training session for our Planning Board. There will be 2 items that will be discussed that night, one of which is going to be essentially a recap of the presentation and training that I provided for all of you in terms of conditional rezonings, what is permissible, what is not permissible, what the state statute allows. It's going to be modified slightly to address their role in the process. The other part of the training, which will actually happen first in the night, is going to be an in-depth training on transportation impact analysis. We were able to work with our transportation plan consultants. They're assisting us as part of their comprehensive land use plan and transportation plan update. They're going to come in and provide a full overview that's going to, tell how these are created, what the factors are, what the details are, what the time considerations are, as well as what actually they do to collect this data, how that data is analyzed in context of what is being proposed, additionally what they should be used for, and more so what they are not. Some people have an idea that TIA is a full all-encompassing transportation plan for a much greater geographic area than it is. They'll provide a full in-depth overview of what those will entail. I know that there was a couple board members that were interested in it. Unfortunately, they were unable to make it. So what we're going to do is make sure we record these trainings, and they'll be available. The recording will be available after probably the next day.
Okay, now that was for September's meeting?
That is, it's the September 14th, which was the joint public hearing night.
No, I got that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to be sure that you were talking about September.
Yes.
I missed that.
We will have an October joint public hearing for a conditional rezoning, but we do not have any joint public hearings scheduled for September.
Good. All right. Anything else? Questions? Okay. Thank you. You said you were through, Joe? All right. Okay, we now have a closed session with 2 items. One is permitted by North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5 for the purpose of property acquisition, and then another one, 143-318.11A6 for the purpose of personnel discussion. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. take a quick break if you want to, about 10 minutes.